Welcome, everybody, to Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. Adam Azer, Heath Cummings, Dave Richard. We've done our position previews. We've done our sleepers, breakouts, and busts. It is time now to draft. Live mock draft with 10 listeners or viewers, and Dave and Heath are going to take part in the draft. I am just going to sit back and moderate. Okay, guys, let's see. We got any big news that you feel like we need to address? We're still waiting on Brandon Ayuk. Matthew Stafford is a minor hamstring issue. Jahmyr Gibbs should be ready for week 1. Where do you guys think he'll go in this draft?
Top 15 pick.
13 to 15.
Hopefully he goes 14th overall.
That would be your second pick.
Yeah.
Malik Neighbors returned to practice, could actually play this weekend. Where do you think he'll go in this draft?
Where does Azer pick?
I'm picking.
Oh, you're not even picking?
No. And I haven't drafted Malik Neighbors.
So I'll go second pick of round 4.
I'll say he's a round 3 pick.
Yeah, I say round 3 as well.
36. I don't think maybe I'll take him. I don't know. But by 36 overall, he'll be a goner.
Christian Calf has a minor Kirk injury. Jordan Addison seems to have avoided any major injury with his ankle. Yeah. Russell Wilson is supposed to play this weekend unless he has any setbacks with his calf. So I guess Russell Wilson is not completely out of the woods. And we'll talk about more guys who are kind of rising right now, just based on reports. Brian Thomas having a good camp. Greg Dortch has been really impressive in joint practices with the Vikings. And let's get started. We have a 12-team league. It is, like I said, Dave, Heath. Heath is picking second. Dave is picking 11th. And 10 audience members. 30 seconds on the clock, so these should go quickly. It's PPR. It's 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 2 flex. 2 flex. I don't know if people actually know that, so I'm going to make sure they know. Actually, I did put that in the Facebook post. 2 flex. So we'll see if that changes anything. Christian McCaffrey is our first pick. Heath, you're on the clock.
So I'm really very, very close. And maybe if we did this trade or did this draft like on Monday or Tuesday, I would be there. I'm very close to just going RB. Man, you did a 30-second clock. You're going to be resetting this thing so many times. But I'm not there yet, so I'm going to go ahead and take CeeDee Lamb. But it's coming to where it's just going to be McCaffrey, Hall, and Bijan if we don't get this Lamb thing figured out real fast.
Can you get into that a little bit? Is it just because of Lamb, or is it because you're trying to load up on a position that you think is really thin?
No, it's because the reason for taking these wide receivers over Breece Hall and Bijan Robinson is not because they have more upside. It's because wide receivers are supposed to be safer in round 1. And you don't want to lose your draft with your round 1 pick. But which of these wide receivers is safe now? It's not the guys who don't have a contract, I don't think, and aren't at practice. I can't say that a 30-year-old wide receiver is safe.
Why?
What?
Why? What's wrong with that? That's the one that I knew you were going to go there. I know Jamie says the same thing, but I don't really see any evidence that 30 is old, especially like you said, he didn't show any signs last year. He had maybe his best season ever. I think
right. Well, I mean, he did get hurt and fall apart in the fantasy playoffs.
Well, Bijan Robinson, Breece Hall obviously has gotten hurt. He's tore his ACL as a rookie. All right, go ahead. I don't put Hill there.
You've got to set marks somewhere for where age bothers you, or you can just ignore it completely. I'm not drafting Mike Evans. As much as I'm drafting Mike Evans higher than anybody else is, I'm not drafting him to match what he did last year.
Right. Okay. So you have the 3 running backs ahead of Tyreek Hill.
Yes. The way this draft has gone, at least with the first 5 picks, McCaffrey, Lamb, Hall, Robinson, Hill, it's as if they're using my rankings. I would have Amon-Ra St. Brown right after Hill, because he is the one wide receiver who I actually do think is like bulletproof.
Okay, so let's talk about something here that now I'm seeing more and more often, because we've been talking about the Elite 8 for so long. And in this draft, it's McCaffrey, Lamb, Hall, Bijan, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, but not Justin Jefferson. Saquon Barkley was 8th. When we drafted on Tuesday night, Saquon Barkley went ahead of Jamar Chase, who I took at 9. So Justin Jefferson goes 9th. Dave, you're about to be on the clock. A.J. Brown went 10th. Before you pick, Dave, I'm going to stop the draft.
Great.
Should Barkley go ahead of Jefferson?
I'm okay with it. You've got to be a little bit concerned about Jefferson catching passes from Darnold potentially for the whole season. But the argument is we knew Darnold was going to start this year, but we still had Jefferson ranked 5th. And my reaction to that is, well, I thought that JJ McCarthy would eventually come in, and I feel like JJ McCarthy would be a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. Now, what happened was training camp started and McCarthy didn't really separate himself from Darnold. He was still making mistakes. He was still a little raw. And so it was kind of easy to make Darnold the starter for week 1 in Minnesota. And then JJ got hurt. The track record with Darnold and his receivers is just not good. But he's never had a receiver like Justin Jefferson. And Kevin O'Connell's going to continue to filter targets to Jefferson. He's still going to get 10 per game. He's still a first-round pick. It's a matter of whether or not you think he can be 1,600 yards and 10 touchdowns with 120 catches with Darnold / Nick Mullins, because if Darnold stinks, they've got an early year bye. They can go right back to Nick Mullins. And the 2 games against Detroit, we know that Mullins lit them up. They're going to have some matchups that'll be easier after the bye. They have a tough schedule before then. Maybe that's when Jefferson really hits his stride. Or maybe Sam Darnold actually ends up playing decently well. Either way, I still have enough confidence in Jefferson that he's a first-round pick, still a top 10 pick, but not a top 5 or 6 type pick.
And I'll just say, like, I did move Jefferson down to 9. I don't think there's any justification for moving him behind Saquon Barkley. We have no recent history of Saquon Barkley justifying being a top 4 running back. We have no recent history of a Philadelphia Eagles running back justify being a top 4 running back. Historically speaking, there's about a 10 to 15% decline in fantasy performance when veteran running backs change teams. And I was on with Robert Turbin yesterday, and he made the good point that, like, the best running back in football is a guy who changed teams in the middle of his career. And that's true. It's also true that Christian McCaffrey's 3 best seasons from a fantasy point per game perspective came on the Carolina Panthers. Like, he's not scoring 30 points a game anymore. He's scoring 22. It's just still better than everyone else. It's more likely that Saquon Barkley is worse than he was last year, which is RB9, than better than he was last year. And even if you don't believe that, the risk is still greater than Justin Jefferson.
Well, I got to talk about what happened after this. So Jefferson went 9th, AJ Brown 10th. Dave took Garrett Wilson. Now I want to remind everyone, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 2 flex. How about this 1-2 turn? James Cook and Travis Etienne before Jonathan Taylor, before Jahmyr Gibbs, and
before Puka, before Kyron Williams, before
Marvin Harrison. Yeah.
I like James Cook at 12 a lot more than I like Saquon Barkley at 8.
Oh boy.
I like James Cook more than Saquon Barkley, period.
5 players better than Cook in that range, if not 10. And then Saquon shouldn't have gone as high as he did. I mean, I get it. I understand why people are excited about Saquon, but
I would not have started Cook and ETN, but you know me, I love the round 4 trio of Kamara, Mixon, Ken Walker, and I'm happy taking one of them. I think that it was a perfect spot to either go Taylor receiver or receiver, or just you like Cook and ETN, fine. But both of them, that's way earlier than their ADP. I wouldn't have done that, Scott. But that's hey, you know what? That's your team.
Also,
Scott, go ahead, Heath.
Picking from 12, you got no chance of getting those 2 guys again.
Exactly right. So if Scott's got conviction on those 2, you're not going to wait for them to get to you at 36, 37 because they're going to be gone.
All right, Jonathan Taylor is Dave's pick. So you have Garrett Wilson and Jonathan Taylor. So you took him ahead of Jahmyr Gibbs. Yes. Is that a change for you in PPR?
A little change just because of the hamstring injury. I think Taylor was the one guy that I put in front of Gibbs after that happened.
The next pick. Gibbs, then Puka Nacua, those guys falling, then Marvin Harrison. And there we have our big 7, our top 7. Oh, no. Who's the guy missing from the top 17?
Kyron Williams.
Right. I forgot about him
We should just keep telling everybody who to pick during the draft so they'll just know who's coming next.
Yeah, the guy at the 1-2 turn is definitely listening.
I mean, that's fine. You know, I obviously I expect them to listen. All right. So we have Kyron Williams left, and let's see if he goes here. And we're waiting on Brad. So Brad's first pick was Amon-Ra St. Brown. Right now, we have 5 teams who have made 2 selections. We have one running back build. That's Cook and ETN at 12-13. And we have a Barkley, Marvin Harrison build. I'm sorry, we have a Jefferson Puka. I was going to point out the Jefferson Puka Nakua build. We have a receiver build. And everyone else has gone running back receiver. Boy, Jefferson Puka Nakua is pretty enticing. Not going to lie. We'll see what happens at running back. The funny thing,
that's a little bit of buying the dip. We've talked about that as something that fantasy managers should always take advantage of. 2-3 weeks ago, both those guys were first-round picks. You had no shot of getting both of them in a snake draft. And now here's an example of someone getting both of them. And if they're right, and Jefferson's healthy, it's not like he's going to miss time. If they're right, that's the type of start that can win you a league.
Derrick Henry goes. All right, here's round 2. ETN, Jahmyr Gibbs, Puka Nakua, Marvin Harrison Jr., Derrick Henry, and then Kyron Williams falls to 19th. Isaiah Pacheco is our 20th pick. And we'll pause things after the end of round 2 and sort of evaluate. But right now you still have Olave and London and Devontae Adams. You have that group of wide receivers. There's Olave going 21st overall to the team that took Bijan Robinson. We have a lot of receiver running back builds here so far.
That's what you're going to see. That's going to be the most common build.
Oh, no. Heath did not take Devon Achane. Rob took Devon Achane. Breece Hall and Devon Achane for Rob. Heath, you're on the clock with CeeDee Lamb.
Really, really hate picking at the end of round 2. Super duper hate it. And I think I can maneuver this to where I get. We'll see if it works. I'm going to take Jalen Waddle. So I'll start with CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Waddle. And
I had a tough call yesterday. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but Waddle versus Debo, just drafting right now, but if Ayuk gets traded, it's easily Debo. If Ayuk doesn't get traded, it's Waddle. Well, not for me. It was Waddle. I didn't know if I should take Debo just for that chance. I took Waddle, but Waddle goes 23rd. Cooper Kupp goes 24th. We're going to look at the first 2 rounds and see what everybody's got here. Reminder that if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use the bonus code FANTASY, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Download the BetMGM app, sign up using the bonus code FANTASY. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use the bonus code FANTASY when you sign up on BetMGM. Quick break here. Fun announcements when we come back on Fantasy Football Today.
We need your sports news anywhere.
We've got breaking news to bring you.
Then get your sports anytime you want them. Big trade news overnight to discuss.
Because we know you need sports all the time.
A lot of movement in the rankings this week.
A legend adds to their legacy.
We're bringing you that breaking news right here on HQ.
CBS Sports HQ, anywhere, anytime, all the time.
You got to go to our Tiltify page, tinyurl.com/draftathon2024, tinyurl.com/draftathon2024. I had mentioned that our FFT open spots had sold out. We actually had 8 open up. 7 of them are gone. There's 1 left in Thomas Schaefer's division. By the time you hear this, hopefully it's gone. But go to tinyurl.com/draftathon2024 and you can get in the FFT open. Schaefer has 1 spot left. We have our tennis match is official. It is happening. And here's what you can do. You can bid. I don't know if this is up yet. You can bid to be on Team Adam or Team Dan. Highest bid gets to co-manage a team with us in the Fantasy Football Today League, not the FFT Open. We have a league, Fantasy Football Today, Jamie, Dave, Heath, me, Dan, all the CBS people. You can co-manage with us. You bid on Adam, you co-manage with me. You bid on Dan, you co-manage with Dan. Whoever wins the tennis match gets 2 things. The right to swap picks in the draft if you want. Like if I have the 5th pick and he has the 8th pick, and Dan wins, he can swap with me. We can, and the right to trade a pick in any round after round 2. So like if I have the 4th pick and Dan has the 8th pick and up in round 4, he can just swap. He gets the better pick if he beats me in tennis. So
you missed something.
What?
I think everybody plays everybody in this league, right?
Uh-huh.
Whoever wins the tennis match gets the win that week, no matter what.
No, we're not doing that. Which is look, we've already gone through this so much. I appreciate the suggestions. I can't make any changes to it. So
yeah, you can.
Anyway, you can co-manage with me and Dan. That's going to be available, and you should bid more on the Dan team because he's probably going to win. I'm somewhat confident. He's extremely confident. I don't think he's going to beat me 6-0, 6-0, but 6-3, 6-3 seems more realistic. But hey, if I have a good day, I can beat him. Anyway, tinyurl.com/draftathon2024. And we have some mock drafts for you to join. All right, let's take a look at the first two rounds. I appreciate the patience from everybody that's drafting with us right now. Team 1, McCaffrey and Cooper Kupp. Good? Yeah.
Fine.
CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Waddle for Heath.
Sucks.
I would have I wouldn't have taken Waddle, and I think what Heath's doing is gambling that one of the running backs that he would have settled for will make it back to him in round 3, and that'll make him feel good about taking that running back in round 3 instead of round 2.
Yeah.
If you had taken London instead of Waddle, I would have been really good with it.
Yeah, and I think like that's probably by ADP, that is the consensus opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to say that Drake London can have by far the best year of his career this year and not be anywhere close to as good as Jalen Waddle's been.
I just don't like that Waddle's been out for a couple of weeks, and his ceiling is capped as long as Tyreek Hill's on the field. I'm never personally taking Jalen Waddle with like a top 30 pick, much less late round 2.
All right. Rob took Breece Hall and Devon Achane. We'll see what he does. This has been a kind of a running back heavy draft.
Another pick that is too soon for me is Achane.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 running backs. It's not terribly running back heavy, a little bit. Team 4, Mark, Bijan Robinson, and Chris Olave. Team 5, Matthew, Tyreek Hill, and Isaiah Pacheco. I am older than Dan, by the way, to answer this question. Team 6 is Luka, Jamar Chase, and Kyron Williams. Team 7 is Brad, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Derrick Henry. Saquon Barkley and Marvin Harrison for Team 8, Mike. Team 9 is Johnny, Justin Jefferson, and Puka Nacua.
That's awesome.
Team 10, Hayden, AJ Brown, and Jahmyr Gibbs. I have to squint.
That's really good too.
Dave Richard, Garrett Wilson, and Jonathan Taylor at Team 11.
That's probably the best.
And James Cook and Travis Etienne at Team 12.
Wow.
My favorite so far is Chase and Kyron. All right, let's get going with round 3. Thank you for your patience to the people drafting. And Joe is on the clock with McCaffrey and Cooper Kupp. Let's see what he does. No quarterbacks, no tight ends so far through the first 2 rounds.
And that's an important point to make. And I don't know if it's going to be that way in everybody's leagues at home, but without question, you can find a quarterback later and you can find a tight end a little bit later than the first 2 rounds. Obviously, if it's super flex or if it's tight end premium, that'll be very different. But plan on waiting at least through your first 2 picks to get a tight end or a QB.
Well, Kelsey went with the first pick of round 3. Oh, Heath going triple wide receiver in this 2-flex league.
You passed on London again.
You don't like Drake London. You know this. Where
I do know this. It's okay. He's allowed.
All right. Lamb, Waddle, and Mike Evans for you.
Just to be clear, I'm ranking and projecting Drake London 25 spots higher than he's ever finished. I love Drake London. I'm expecting a breakout season from Drake London. I just think everyone else is insane. Mike Evans was my highest ranked player at the end of round 2. I didn't think that nobody else takes Mike Evans in round 2. So I took Jalen Waddle, and Mike Evans came back to me in round 3. I have 3 of my top 13 wide receivers.
So the guy who started his draft saying, I really need running backs. I'm really close to taking 3 running backs in a row. You're effectively starting 0 RB.
I probably wish I thought there would be better running backs than wide receivers available at the end of round 2, and there weren't. So maybe I will go ahead and move Hall and Robinson ahead of Lamb. But also, I can start 4 wide receivers. I'm okay if I have 5 of my first 7 picks are wide receivers.
You could have, I guess, taken Josh Jacobs in round 3. So that was
he was not my highest rated running back.
I'm looking at your rankings.
Maybe that's because somebody's already taken Rachaad White.
Yep.
Oh, sorry. Someone just took Rachaad White. Okay, you would have taken Rachaad White. Okay. Well, I'm assuming you have your fingers crossed that Kamara, Mixon, or Ken Walker will be available to you in round 4.
No.
All right. Would you take them at 47 overall?
Potentially, depending on if, like I've got about 15 players ranked higher than them right now.
Okay. There goes Mixon. All right, let's catch up on round 3. Kelsey, Evans, there's a huge wide receiver on 5 straight. Drake London, Devontae Adams, Michael Pittman, Deebo Samuel. Then Rashad White to Brad, who has St. Brown, Derrick Henry, and Rashad White. Nico Collins is the 8th pick of the round. Joe Mixon, 3.9. Sam Laporta, 3.10. And Dave, you're on the clock. I'll give you 30 more seconds.
Appreciate it. Let me just take you through what I'm thinking. So I started with a receiver and a running back with my first 2 picks, and that was done with supply and demand kind of in mind. There was Garrett Wilson and Puka and a bunch of running backs in round 1. There wasn't a running back I preferred. I took Wilson, and then I got lucky with Jonathan Taylor in round 2. Doing the exact same thing here. There are 2 receivers that I like with Ayuk and Neighbors. I'm taking Ayuk, and there are at least 3 running backs that I would love to have in round 4. And I know that the drafter who picked at the 1-2 turn took 2 running backs already. So I'd be surprised if he even took a running back with his next 2 picks. I'm using his weaknesses against him. I took the receiver first, and we'll see what happens next. But I feel pretty confident that I'll get Josh Jacobs at the top of my in round 4, the 2nd pick of round 4.
Okay.
Take Josh Jacobs, Scott.
Yeah, dude, Scott. Yeah, I got 3 running. Oh, Josh Allen. He fooled me. I saw
sneaky.
All right, our first quarterback. So we do have 2 tight ends and 1 quarterback in round 3. Kelsey at 3.1, Laporta at 3.10, and Allen, last pick of round 3. And DK Metcalf goes to Scott.
I've got to bring up another comment from the chat because I think this is a thing that people who played a lot of best ball or consumed a lot of content over the summer probably thinks any ADP that's not underdog just looks so weird. That's accurate, but
you are right.
I think it's also maybe more indicative of what's going to happen in your non-underdog, non-best ball league than underdog best ball ADP is. We're shaking off the best ball right now. We're getting redraft normie, or as Dave calls them, casual ADP now, and you got to adjust a little bit.
All right, Malik Neighbors just went. If you look at the wide receivers who have gone, you got Ayuk, Metcalf, Neighbors. We still have Higgins, Pickens, Cooper, DJ Moore, Rashee Rice, Tank Dell, Devonta Smith.
Good names.
Yeah, but do we have any? Does Malik Neighbors have the most upside in that group?
Yes.
Yes.
And
then who?
There was a part of me that thought about taking Neighbors over Jacobs just to have that upside and just to dominate with 3 receivers. But I really like Jacobs. And
I think Pickens has more upside as of now.
Who?
Pickens.
No, I don't see that.
He thinks everyone has more upside.
I don't know.
It's okay. No,
I don't understand. Like,
you think differently.
I'm not saying that I think that George Pickens is a better wide receiver or a better prospect or has more dynasty upside, but like these other guys don't have Daniel Jones throwing them the football.
Yeah.
What about in best ball, Heath?
What?
No, not best ball.
Yeah, I think if there's a week where Malik Neighbors gets to play against the Giants corners and the defensive line is not allowed to touch Daniel Jones, Malik Neighbors is probably going to score like 400 points.
All right. Listen, he wouldn't be the first wide receiver to have a good year with a bad quarterback.
As bad as Daniel Jones, it might be.
Maybe Daniel Jones could be better than you think because he's going to be throwing to Malik Neighbors.
He could be.
There's definitely that, and there's also the offensive line that should be a little bit better. And if he's well protected, I think he can be. Are these words actually going to come out of my mouth? I think he can be an average NFL quarterback.
I want to say this because this is could be the place where I'm really missing. I have read several publications that still have the Giants offensive line ranked 31st or 32nd.
Yeah,
so I think that they might I've also seen a couple of that say what Dave said. I'm going to need to reset on the clock that say that they are going to be better this year. I've seen more of the former than the latter, so I'm expecting them to be awful.
Right. Okay, I'll give you the definitive. They are going to, if they have Andrew Thomas, their left tackle, This is a big deal. He is the most important player on their offense. He missed a lot of games last year. If he plays a full season, they will be better. They should be better. They upgraded. They brought in new players. I hope they don't even bother with Evan Neal at right tackle, but they're still going to have a bad offensive line. That's my opinion. But if you have a franchise left tackle, maybe it could be average. Now, I think we're done talking about the Giants here, and let's recap round 4 as soon as Joe makes his last pick. He took James Conner, 48th overall. And let's see, running backs really like the best running back in Heath's rankings is Javonte Williams, and we're only 48 picks in this remaining. In Jamie's, it's David Montgomery. In Dave's, it's Jahmyr White.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, all of the Kamara, Mixon, Walker group is out, and so is James Conner, who usually has a 5th round ADP. He goes to the last pick of round 4, so it's fine. We had 3 quarterbacks come off the board. We have 3 tight ends off the board. Mark Andrews is going to get picked soon. He's definitely falling here.
In the next 2 picks, I bet.
Yeah.
This is another one of those instances where I was on the clock. Patrick Mahomes and Mark Andrews were the top 2 players available on my board at pick 47. The other guy took Travis Kelce with the first pick of round 3. So I took Patrick Mahomes. I'll take Mark Andrews next. We are officially in 0 RB territory.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But I have, in my opinion, an elite quarterback, an elite tight end, and 3 top 13 wide receivers. I love it.
You have Lamb, Waddle, Evans, and Mahomes. Round 4 was Metcalf, Jacobs, Neighbors, Kamara, Devontae Smith, Trey McBride, Ken Walker, T. Higgins, DJ Moore, Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, and James Conner. I don't want to talk about DJ Moore here.
This is where he's going to go. This is where
that's about where I have him.
Yeah. All right. You're good there.
You might see him going late round 3 in a couple of leagues. I used to think that was the spot for him. Now I think that might be a little too soon.
Okay. I feel like I may be underrating him. Seems like he's got a pretty good connection going with Caleb Williams.
Yeah, but he's not going to get every connection.
No. Okay, fair. So we'll look for him. We'll look for DJ Moore mid to late round 4.
T. Higgins went earlier than normal.
Yeah, I was about
still
to say,
like it.
I don't want to start Adam off on a diatribe, but I would have taken Moore over Higgins.
I like T. Higgins right there, but he is almost always available in round 5 or 6. Makes me feel a little bit better about being so wide receiver heavy. If the guys that I normally get, like Adam, you've talked about a lot, those round 5 and 6 wide receivers that we like.
Yeah.
When we're drafting with people who listen to us, they may go before we get to there. But I'll go ahead and stop talking and draft Mark Andrews here. Love it. Love this team.
Heath,
right,
did you have any thought about Pickens there instead of Andrews?
Nope. I think Mark Andrews should have been picked 15 picks ago. So I basically have Kelce, I'm not in this order, but Kelce, Laporta, McBride, and Andrews all at the 3-4 turn.
I'm going to ask you, so looking at your team, Lamb, you pick second, Lamb, then Waddle, then Mike Evans. That's your top 3. And then you get Mark Andrews in round 5. Instead of Andrews or Mahomes, let's just say you take Mahomes in round 4. Would you rather have Mike Evans and Mark Andrews or Rashad White and George Pickens, and then no tight end in this range?
Yeah, I don't probably, we'll see what happens in the next 2 rounds of picks before I pick again, but probably what I've got, because I don't think we're going to see Dalton Kincaid or George Kittle available. And so I think the difference between Mark Andrews and what I might get at tight end is going to be bigger than the difference between Rashad White. Because I've got Evans over Pickens, which is a pretty big difference in my book.
Okay.
So yeah, that's 2 positions worse to make 1 position better.
Okay.
Makes sense.
There's only thing that, because there's not a running back that I would have taken instead of Evans. There's not a running back I would have taken instead of Waddle. The only thing would be if I had taken Breece Hall instead of CeeDee Lamb.
Okay, fair. Round 5 almost in the books here. We'll try to wrap this up here. Let me recap. Lamar Jackson, Mark Andrews. Lamar Jackson was QB4. Mark Andrews was tight end 4. Dalton Kincaid. No, wait. Yeah. Dalton Kincaid, tight end 5. Yep. Stephon Diggs, Jahmyr White, Aaron Jones. Do we like those picks, Jahmyr White and Aaron Jones in round 5 as the second and third running backs for the teams that drafted them?
I'm fine with both of them as RB2s, but I would have hoped that Jones had fallen another round later. Jahmyr White in round 5, I'm okay with.
I do not like Aaron Jones as an RB2 or in round 5.
Okay. I wonder if, as we get through 5 rounds, only 4 quarterbacks off the board. I'm going to let Dave talk about the pick he just made. Sorry to who's on the clock here. Caden, just hang on a moment. I wonder if the fact that we have 2 flexes here is making the quarterbacks drop a little bit. But let me keep going in round 5. So it was Jackson, Andrews, Kincaid, Diggs, Jahmyr White, Aaron Jones. George Pickens went right in the middle of round 5. That's a guy who only now has 2 wide receivers. Brad has Amon-Ra St. Brown, Derrick Henry, Rashad White, Trey McBride, and George Pickens. George Kittle was the next pick. Amari Cooper, Tank Dell, Calvin Ridley to Dave, and Jaden Reed. Scott then took Rashee Rice.
Great pick.
Yeah, this is the guy who went
huge value.
Cook and ETN with his first 2 picks, then Josh Allen. So he also has a pretty interesting build. Josh Allen round 3, then wide receivers at 4, and then at the 5-6 turn. DK Metcalf, Jaden Reed, Rashee Rice. Dave, the Ridley pick surprised me a little bit there. And then you took David Montgomery. Why'd you take Calvin Ridley to now give you Garrett Wilson, Jonathan Taylor, Brandon Ayuk, Josh Jacobs, Calvin Ridley, and David Montgomery? Picking 11th, you have now 3 running backs and 3 wide receivers.
So I like that I've got a balanced build, and it keeps me open to whatever I want to do with my next pick. I was debating Ridley versus Rice, actually, and trying to figure out which guy might Team 12 prefer. And I would think that it would be Ridley, just because he seems to be a little bit more of a high upside play, maybe more volatile than Rashee Rice. As good as Rice is in late round 5 and early round 6, there's still flaws to him. The fact that this receiving core added talent, the fact that he's still not running deep routes, at least he didn't in their first preseason game. It made me just a little bit more standoffish. I want to get a little bit more upside from my wide receiver 3. So I think Ridley could deliver that. But that being said, I would have been all over Rice in round 6. Rice got picked, so I settled for Montgomery to be my RB3.
I like the Montgomery pick a lot. Shrey asked if I would have still gone with 3 wide receivers to start if this was not PPR. No way. Definitely would have taken Breece Hall at pick number 2.
Same.
All right, we've got some more picks coming off the board here in round 6. Rashee Rice, David Montgomery, Zay Flowers. Oh, look at the firepower at wide receiver that Caden has. I really can't read. I'm sorry, it's too far away.
Put your glasses on. Don't be a wuss.
That wouldn't really help too much, but he's got AJ Brown, then Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, and then Malik Neighbors, Tank Dell, Zay Flowers. Explosive players there. That's a fun team at Team 10. AJ Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Malik Neighbors, Tank Dell, Zay Flowers. Evan Ingram was the 4th pick of the round by Johnny. Chris Godwin, Christian Kirk, Kyle Pitts. Godwin and Kirk feel pretty similar, right?
Yep. I moved Godwin ahead of Kirk.
I did too.
It's not because Kirk with the calf injury. It's Godwin's healthy, and thinking about Liam Cohen, and this is something that I guess we should have thought about months ago, but now it seems to be playing out. He came from LA. He knows that offensive scheme can be very lethal. If Godwin's moving into the slot, is he not playing the Cooper Kupp role? And if he's playing the Cooper Kupp role, that could mean a lot of catches, plenty of yards, and maybe even a big threat in the red zone like Cooper Kupp is now. So I'm much more interested now that I've thought about it, now that Godwin's gotten through training camp and he seems to be just fine, now that Liam Cohen seems like a maybe even a better fit for Tampa than Dave Canales was. We've been talking about Dave Canales for a year. Now Liam Cohen might be better for them. I'm encouraged by it, and I like the idea of waiting for Godwin in round 6. This is the perfect time to get him. Not everybody's chasing him. Do not forget about Chris Godwin in your drafts.
Okay, we're waiting for one more pick here. Round 6 is in the books. We're going to recap it after this break. We will be right back on Fantasy Football Today.
There are some things in life that you can't quite explain.
An extraordinary story.
Maybe it sounds flawless, looks effortless, or makes you feel like a part of history.
The first ever goal for BFC.
And when all of those phenomenons come together, it's perfect. Pitch perfect.
We're back. We're into round 7 of a 14-round draft. We're going to have to pick up the pace a little bit here, but round 6 was Rashee Rice, David Montgomery, Zay Flowers, Evan Ingram, Chris Godwin, Christian Kirk, Kyle Pitts, Najee Harris, CJ Stroud, Deontay Johnson, Tony Pollard, and Terry McLaurin. One of the things I love is when you analyze a draft, and after, let's see, like the 6th pick of round 5, you analyze a draft and you see where running back value is better than wide receiver value, and then it swings the other way. And after Jahmyr White and Aaron Jones were taken in the middle of round 5, we get this run. Pickens, I won't read the other positions, so you do have some tight ends in there, but Pickens, Amari Cooper, Dell, Ridley, Reed, Rice, then David Montgomery, Flowers, Godwin, Christian Kirk, Najee Harris, Deontay Johnson, then Tony Pollard, Terry McLaurin. You get a stretch of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 wide receivers compared to 3 running backs in that stretch. And round 6, this is a pretty solid, this is definitely wide receiver 3 territory. For some people, it's wide receiver 4 in this draft, or at least for one. But it's not bad, right? I mean, it's not bad to have Rashee Rice, Zay Flowers, Chris Godwin, Christian Kirk, Deontay Johnson, or Terry McLaurin as your 3rd wide receiver in a 12-team league. Am I right? Am I wrong?
That's about right.
Yeah, it's I like the value here. And I kudos to the people drafting for not reaching for the running backs here. I don't think you want to be taking Jaylen Warren over Terry McLaurin, or else that'll be pretty boring. And let's go to round 7.
Your rhymes are making me snoring.
Yeah, I don't.
You take Warren over McLaurin?
I don't know. They're close. I'm just trying to think. You're saying that McLaurin has more upside?
Without an injury, yes, absolutely.
I mean, what if Jaylen Warren just like week 3 becomes Arthur's best friend?
Let's go again. 3 years in a row. Come on.
What?
No, I mean, it's not you. I mean, I felt like you were always one of saying like every week people say Jaylen Warren's going to be the lead running back. It never happens.
But Jaylen Warren in full PPR was better than Najee last year, wasn't he?
He was. He started off the year better, and then Najee, once they had a coordinator change, kind of took over. If you want to talk about best friends, Terry McLaurin is Jaden Daniels' best friend, and Jaden Daniels threw the ball mostly awesome against the Dolphins in practice on Thursday. I think McLaurin is set up for a career year.
So now, okay, after that stretch of 11 wide receivers to 3 running backs, the next 4 picks of the first 4 picks of round 7 are running backs. Mostert, Javonte, Ramondre, and DeAndre. Raheem Mostert, Javonte Williams, Ramondre Stevenson, DeAndre Swift. Dave, your thoughts on that group of 4? Actually, Heath, your thoughts, because you took one of them, Javonte Williams.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was really 5 out of 6 picks because I took Pollard right before that as well. I think we see here the thinning out, the ending of the RB2 range. And whether you think Mostert belongs in that or not probably depends on how age and injury averse you are. But these guys, for me at least, it's like my last 4 running backs amongst the top 24. I still think there's quite a bit of upside for Tony Pollard if he looks like he did in that first preseason game. I still think there's quite a bit of upside for Javonte Williams in the Sean Payton offense.
Yep.
If he's getting 60% of the touches. We know what Swift can be on an inconsistent basis. And we know what Mostert can do in that Miami Dolphins offense. So I think for me, having started off with 3 wide receivers, a quarterback, and a tight end, I feel pretty fortunate to also be able to draft 2 running backs that I have ranked in the top 20.
Okay. Yeah. And are you going to, with Pollard and Javonte Williams in round 6 and 7 as the first running backs on your team, Are you going to look at Spears and I don't even know if Spears is, he has not been picked. Spears and or like Jaleel McLaughlin at any point? Are they priorities for you?
I will not elevate them. Like if they happen to be the top running back available in my rankings when I pick, I will take them.
Okay. Round 7, Mostert, Javonte, Ramondre Stevenson, DeAndre Swift. You know that. Look at this quarterback value. Quarterbacks really fell in this draft. I mean, CJ Stroud went with the 9th pick of round 6, and then Anthony Richardson goes 7.5. Next pick is Kyler Murray, then Brian Robinson, and then Joe Burrow. So you get Richardson, Kyler Murray, and Joe Burrow all in the middle of round 7. Jonathan Brooks to Johnny, Keenan Allen, and then Dave took Christian Watson. And the last pick of the round was Ladd McConkey. And then Scott, who took McConkey, started off round 8 with Jalen Warren. And then Dave, who did you take? You took okay. So that's a high upside swing there in a PPR league. Probably not high catch guys though. Christian Watson and Jamison Williams.
I got to work on my swinging form. I'm going after upside with these picks in round 7 and 8, as you should. The other option would be, is there a tight end that I'd like? The answer was no. Ferguson was there. I have a new tight end in mind for a late round pick, and I'm going to take him in this draft. The best quarterbacks left were Dak, Jordan Love. Wasn't ready to take them either. I'm ready to settle for a quarterback in round 9 or later in my drafts. So just continuing to stockpile talent and hopefully have at least one breakout receiver between Williams and Watson. And if Ridley doesn't, return value when I took him, then that breakout receiver can be my wide receiver 3.
So what did you think about maybe taking Jake Ferguson here? Because we do have 8 tight ends off the board. And you're such a Bowers guy that he's Bowers is I didn't realize is your highest ranked tight end.
Yeah.
So no tight end yet through 8 rounds.
No. And Ferguson is certainly in the mix too, but I know that I can wait for Bowers because not everybody is ready to rush for a rookie Raider tight end. And like I said before, there's a sleeper tight end that went on my radar that I think I'm going to take him.
And
are we drafting defenses and kickers?
Ben Sinnott?
Right team, wrong guy.
Zach Ertz?
Zach Ertz.
Whoa. Okay.
I'm definitely low. I'm not taking Zach Ertz now. I'm taking Zach Ertz with my last possible pick.
And I think it's worth remembering that Zach Ertz, as recently as last year, before he got hurt in week 7, the first 6 weeks of the season, he was pretty close to 10 fantasy points per game, wasn't he?
He was Trey McBride.
And without doing anything after he caught the ball. He just caught it and fell down every time, which was fine. This is a tough decision. I'm going to shoot the moon here a little bit for the 3rd time in this draft, and we'll see if Joe. Is it Joe?
It's
John,
Joe.
Jim.
Team 1, Joe.
Make me feel bad about it, David. I'm gonna here. I really was kind of surprised that he's still available at the end of round 8.
Brian Thomas is another big time riser. Did great in practice. Obviously, in the game, we saw him have a big catch from CJ Beathard. Earlier in that same game, he beat his man, just didn't get the target. Seems to have turned the light on for Jacksonville and does have a chance to be their number 1 receiver this year.
And then what was I talking about before that?
Zach Ertz.
Oh, yeah. And the last time he was with Cliff Kingsbury, he was seeing all kinds of targets.
Yeah.
So I think you're probably going to see Zach Ertz catch 6 passes a game for 55 yards, maybe 45. And
there isn't a reliable second option in that passing game. And they're searching for one. I asked Dan Quinn about it yesterday, and maybe I was expecting him to say something about Jahan Dotson. He did not mention Dotson as the first or second name out of his mouth. The first name out of his mouth was Olamide Zaccheaus. And then he mentioned De'Ami Brown, and Brown is who caught that deep ball from Jaden Daniels. I don't think they're going to have an answer at wide receiver 2 that's going to be helpful for fantasy. I think Ertz is going to be that guy. And Ertz didn't practice. He wasn't there. His wife had a baby, so he was excused. He won't play in the preseason game. But he knows what Cliff Kingsbury wants from him. I have been told that he and Jaden Daniels have had a good connection in camp. The reports aren't negative on Ertz. The value is it's one of those guys that you're just going to take late and say, what the heck? There's no downside. I burn a pick with round 12 or whatever. So Ertz is now on my radar as a tight end.
Does not have to be round 12 though. Honestly, it could be your last pick.
It could be, yeah. Unless you're
I've never seen Zach Ertz get drafted in our 12-team leagues.
You're about to.
I recall. Okay. All right. Round 8 is done, and it's Jalen Warren, Jamison Williams, Zach Moss, Marquise Brown. I'm dying to see the Bengals offense and how they use Moss and Brown. Moss missed last week with an illness, but I think they're all playing this week. So again, it's Warren, Williams, Jamison Williams, Zach Moss, Marquise Brown, Devin Singletary, Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels, that's QB what? QB 9 off the board? I don't know. I can't do the counting right now. But still, like Dak Prescott's still there. Cortland Sutton, Xavier Worthy, Jake Ferguson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Brian Thomas, Chase Brown ends round 8. But again, this is that range of wide receiver that's really fun to be a part of. You get some high upside guys, whether it's JSN, whether it's one of those rookies. We just saw Keon Coleman go. And then Chase Brown was the last pick of round 8. Nick Chubb, first pick of round 9. Dave, is that too early for Nick Chubb?
I don't hate it. It's not. I think I probably would have had a different player in mind for that. But if we're going to chalk it up to, well, you're not going to be able to get him when you're up again with the last pick of round 10, then taking him at that point is fine.
So sometimes you make
look what just fell into my lap in round 9, pick 11, 107th overall. I pass on quarterback in early round 8, and Jordan Love is still on the board. And the team that's picking after me has Josh Allen. And I'm going to dare them to take Jordan Love. I will take my tight end, Brock Bowers, and then get Jordan Love with my next pick.
Cool.
And if they take Jordan Love, then I'll just say, well, it's a mock. I don't care. Doesn't really matter.
So sometimes you make the wrong bet, but you're still okay. Tyjae Spears was my highest ranked player at the end of round 8. Adam had asked if I was going to take him. Well, he's my highest ranked player, so sure. But I saw that Joe had 3 running backs and only 2 wide receivers, and I thought, well, he won't take a running back here, so I'll take Brian Thomas Jr. Joe took 2 running backs, but he didn't take Tyjae Spears. So I've got Brian Thomas Jr. and Tyjae Spears.
I'll recap round 9 in a minute. Actually, I'll pause the draft here. I do think that there's some merit to this. Remember, I did this in a pick by pick. I had an RB1, and then I took James Conner, and then I was pretty weak at running back depth, but my running back 3 was Trey Benson. And I kind of think there's some merit. Now, look, Benson, maybe his stock is down a little bit since then. But of just like locking up a couple of backfields, if you go with a hero or 0 RB strategy and not really having great depth, but saying, I'm going to start this guy every week. I don't need the running back depth. If he gets hurt, I have his backup. So like if Heath, you came out of this draft with Pollard, Javonte Williams, and Tyjae Spears, that's who you have through 9 rounds. They were your 6th, 7th, and 9th round picks. And then you take McMillan, let's say in round 11. I mean, I don't think that's so bad. I know that
you McLaughlin, right?
Yeah, sorry, McLaughlin.
Okay.
Jaleel McLaughlin. I don't think that's so bad. I'm not saying you should, but I think that there's something to that. I wish it were a little bit more clear that
you should just come up with a name for this strategy where you draft the backup of your starter, because I think you may have found something.
Okay, but I'm saying that you make your entire running back strategy handcuffing backfields, and you just have the backfield.
No,
it's not something that you set out to do. But in a 0 RB build, it's might be better than like taking one guy, like taking a guy that has like, very little. I don't know. You're just saying I'm fine with starting these 2 backfields every week, whether it's the starter or the backup. I have them both. I'm starting the backfield.
Yeah, you could do that.
You don't like it.
I'm just not going to pass on a player that I like more to make it happen. If it happens to fall in my lap like it did with Tyjae Spears, like remember when Tony Pollard and Tyjae Spears were going in the same round? Yeah. And now I take Pollard in round 6 and Spears in round 9. Well, yeah, I love taking Tyjae Spears there, but I wasn't going to reach for him in round 7 to make it happen.
Let me recap round 8 for everybody. It was actually round nine. Sorry, we've done round 8. But in case you want to hear round 8 again, probably don't remember it. Jalen Warren, Jamison Williams, Zach Moss, Marquise Brown, Devin Singletary, Jaden Daniels, Cortland Sutton, Xavier Worthy, Jake Ferguson, JSN, Brian Thomas, Chase Brown. And you got to notice 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 quarterbacks off the board through the first 8 rounds. We still had Dak Prescott. We still had Jordan Love, Caleb Williams, Brock Purdy. Let's see what round 9 looked like. Nick Chubb, Tajay Spears, Khalil Shakir, Zach Charbonnet, not to the Ken Walker manager. DeAndre Hopkins, Keon Coleman, Josh Palmer, Austin Eckler, Dak Prescott, Rico Dowdle, Brock Bowers, and Jerome Ford. Is Rico Dowdle 10th pick of round 9? Is that too early? That's after pick 100.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
That answer might change at any point in the next 2.5 weeks, but for now, it's fine.
All right, Dave, you can pick.
Still taking Zeke over Dowdle. I know I'm probably the only one, but as long as Jerry Jones is in charge.
As long as Jerry Jones is coaching that team. All right.
I'm gonna take Love, but I'm doing something that I've done before in our pick by pick, and I don't love it. I'm kind of overweight on Green Bay. I've got Jacobs. I drafted Watson. Watson's in a spot on my team where he doesn't have to start, but now I've got Jordan Love on top of that. I might just have too many Packers. I might be too high on the Packers. Insert Chicago irony comment here. So this isn't something that I love to do. It's not something that I recommend where you load up on one team, but in the event that you do load up on a team, make it a team that you're comfortable with believing in as being one of the best offenses in the league. I do think the Packers are going to be one of the better offenses in the league.
I have a question, by the way, as we're starting to get to this point in the draft. Should we be taking Jordan Mason ahead of Elijah Mitchell?
When it's this late, I don't have a problem with it. But the only thing is you might be drafting somebody that you're cutting before week 1. McCaffrey's ready week 1. Elijah Mitchell's ready week 1. You might not carry Jordan Mason on your bench.
You believe that Mitchell is still the number 2 running back there? Because there's a lot of Jordan Mason buzz.
There's definitely Jordan Mason buzz. He's definitely made progress on being a better fit in what the 49ers are doing. But I don't know if that means that he's guaranteed to have that spot. He might have that spot for literally the first couple of weeks of the season until Elijah Mitchell's fine. Really what we need to hope for is that Christian McCaffrey is fine and that it doesn't really matter who you get with that pick. But if you're going to speculate on Mason, that's fine. It's almost the same type of speculation as, well, maybe Khalil Herbert gets traded, so I'll take him with a late pick. It better be one of your last picks.
Okay. All right, round 10 so far. Trey Benson, Jordan Love, Blake Corum. Here's a hero RB team from Caden, pick 10. A.J. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Malik Neighbors, Tank Dell, Zay Flowers, Keenan Allen. That's an interesting pick, that Keenan Allen pick, because that was his 5th receiver. You could only start 4. Then he went Zach Moss, Rico Dowdle, and Blake Corum. Does not have a quarterback. I really like this team, though. I love A.J. Brown, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Malik Neighbors, Tank Dell, Zay Flowers. I love that. Maybe not everybody does. And then Zach Moss, Rico Dowdle, Blake Corum. If you just look at Moss and Dowdle, you could certainly do worse than that in rounds 8 and 9. So I think that's a good team. It just, you don't have a quarterback. So we'll see what happens there for Caden, who had the 10th overall pick.
Well, if we pencil in one of Brock Purdy, Tua Tagovailoa, or Caleb Williams,
2 of them.
I think you can get an idea of what type of quarterback he'll have. And it's a good build. I mean, the one thing is Neighbors going to perform like Adam and I think he's going to perform, or like Heath is going to think he performs?
Well, let's say if Malik Neighbors and Tank Dell perform the way that Heath thinks that they will, then the Neighbors pick is bad, but the Dell pick is great.
Right.
That's right about where I have Dell, I think. Maybe
where I have him.
Like 8 spots after. He's a round wide receiver. Like, the thing I thought when I looked at that team was it went really wide receiver heavy. I'm not sure there's a number 2 wide receiver on the team.
I just wish Keenan Allen would have been a quarterback there, like Jaden Daniel. Oh no, like I would have taken Joe Burrow.
No, Burrow wouldn't have made it to him. Burrow was picked before Keenan Allen was.
Yeah, Daniels, Dak Prescott, something like that. But that's
he could have taken Daniels where he took Keenan Allen. Would have felt like a reach there, but at the same time, Allen figures to probably be his safety net at receiver if Dell, Flowers, and Neighbors just are way too inconsistent.
We had a comment in the chat predicting that Brian Thomas Jr. was going to outscore Malik Neighbors this year, and I was wondering what type of odds I can get on that if I take the Thomas side.
We go in per game here.
Yeah, fantasy points per game.
Oh, I'll give you 3-1 on that.
Oh, I would take that in a heartbeat.
The animated
name the thing that we're putting 3-1 on, and yes.
Yeah, I mean, okay, never mind. I meant 2-1.
Thank you. I was thinking it might be like plus 130, but
I think it's not.
2-1 sounds great.
No, I think it's somewhere in between plus 130.
What did Thomas do that got everybody excited? He caught it.
I mean, he's a first round. It wouldn't be that surprising if a guy taken 19th overall was better than the guy taken 9th overall.
Was
6th or whatever.
He was 6th. Neighbors was 6th.
Overall.
Like first round rookie wide receivers are pretty close to a coin flip anyway. If Thomas comes up head, Neighbors comes up tails.
That's but there's such a huge difference in their prospect evaluation.
Yes. I don't think
they were teammates, and Malik Neighbors was like a million times better than him.
I don't think that there is a great correlation between being drafted top 10 and 10 through 20. There is some, but in terms of like producing fantasy points, especially as a rookie, like how much does that difference matter versus the difference between Trevor Lawrence and Daniel Jones?
I think that Brian Thomas is fourth in targets on that team, third at best. And he is, I think you should draft him where you drafted him, because I obviously recognize how talented he is and how much upside there is.
Right.
But he beat somebody deep. That's what he does.
Right.
He did that in the preseason game. He did that in the joint practice, and people were going nuts.
But the other key to it was like he beat somebody deep and the ball was thrown to where he was.
I get it. Daniel Jones is bad. You've made that point, and I'm not arguing that.
You make that point every show.
Also, there was a report that Gabe Davis is going to be the chain mover for the Jaguars. Like, I think we're overlooking him. He's not going to be a great player. He's like my last pick in fantasy drafts, but he could easily out-target Brian Thomas. It wouldn't surprise me. No one's out-targeting Malik Neighbors on the Giants. No one.
I think what happened was that Brian Thomas, and Dave, you can tell me if you're plugged in. I think Brian Thomas had some struggles the first 2-3 weeks of training camp. And some stuff came out about, Gabe Davis is ahead of him and he's fourth on the pecking order. And I think the last week to 10 days, it clicked. And Brian Thomas Jr. looks like a completely different player.
Completely different might be too strong, but otherwise I'm pretty much on board with what you said. I would put the odds at plus 190 that Brian Thomas will have a better year than Malik Neighbors. So,
and I'm on board with what you said too. I don't want to make this like I hate Brian Thomas, but there are obstacles for Brian Thomas. I think more so than Neighbors, because I'd rather be the number one target with a bad quarterback than number 3 or 4. And I think he's number 3 or 4. If you think he can overtake Ingram or Kirk, then fine. I look at Thomas differently, but I guess I'm just not the high guy.
No, I think you're probably right. I think the other part of that equation, and this is a place where I could be completely wrong. I don't actually believe that the Giants are going to throw a lot of passes.
We have an auto pick problem here, Scott. I'm giving you one last.
We don't need to worry about auto picks in round 12 of a mock draft.
Back-to-back tight ends were not good picks. I'm going to make this pick for him if he doesn't. So, Does he have a quarterback? He does have a quarterback.
Pretty sure you may have ignored an auto pick that happened on the other corner for a guy that took two picks in a row. But we're just, yeah.
I didn't notice that. Yeah.
Just give Scott Jerry Jeudy and send him on his way.
All right. He took Troy Franklin.
You might as well give him
really, yeah, Franklin not really having a great camp. Dave takes Marshawn Lloyd. Dave,
that's a backup for Jacobs.
I think the 2 tight ends, especially for a guy that didn't have any, probably was a better plan.
Yeah, I think it probably was, but it's not who we wanted. Troy Franklin, I know there was some preseason buzz. It's worth noting he's really not someone that you should be drafting right now, I would say. You guys can disagree if you want. It made sense, coming in with Bo Nix, seemed to fit that system, but he's pretty low on the depth chart right now, Troy Franklin. Marshawn Lloyd, Jalen Wright is drafted. There was a report from Adam Beasley, who used to cover the Dolphins. He said Jalen Wright's going to have a role in this offense.
Yep.
And I think, you know what? Let's stop Cole Kmet. I'm just going to stop picking for this guy who's been auto-drafted, who's been absent for the last 8 rounds. I've been making picks for him. I'm just going to let that auto pick. I'm going to stop going through the draft picks now, and we're going to start talking about some teams. So, team 1, in a 2 receiver, 2 running back, 2 flex league with a tight end and a quarterback, no defense, no kickers. Christian McCaffrey, Cooper Kupp, Travis Kelce, and then James Conner. Those are your first 4 picks. You've got a 28-year-old running back. You've got a 29-year-old running back, James Conner. You've got a 62-year-old tight end in Travis Kelce and a 31-year-old. I may be getting I think Kelce's 35 and Kupp's 31. Is that
Kelce will be 35.
Kelce will be 35. Is that too much risk? McCaffrey, Kupp, Kelce, Conner. And yes, a lot of alliteration there.
I think if you're okay with their ages, then you overlook it and you move forward.
Some people prefer experience. Like he also took Raheem Mostert and Nick Chubb. There's a lot of experience on this roster. I'm not sure you can overestimate. Like these guys have seen some things.
Well, here's a mistake.
Okay. The problem is, go ahead, Heath.
No, I got to just wrap this one up because I must have missed that auto pick. You're right at the 8-9 turn because Joe only had 2 wide receivers.
Yeah,
that's the problem. And he went Chase Brown, Nick Chubb.
No, the auto pick I was talking about was Antonio Gibson, Tyler Lockett at the next round.
Well, he waited too long at receiver, I think.
Well, obviously,
he only has to start 2.
Ignored it.
I know, but don't you want a little bit of depth? You don't want Tyler Lockett to be your number 3.
Of course. He went crazy on running backs, and now he's got to get receivers with his last few picks. There are some receivers that are interesting late in drafts, but having Tyler Lockett as your wide receiver 3, I would say is not very ideal. He could have had Khalil Shakir when he took Nick Chubb. Could have had Hopkins then. He could have had Keon Coleman then, Josh Palmer then. And then round 10, he could have had Dobbs. He missed the boat on receivers for sure.
In defense, he is clearly planning on starting 4 running backs every week.
And they would be McCaffrey, Connor, Mostert, Chase Brown, Nick Chubb.
So he really, if that's the case, he really only has 2 backup running backs, and one of them is Nick Chubb, who's not going to be ready for the start of the year.
Yeah, it's just like you got to plan for injuries and bye weeks and stuff like that, and you got to have a little bit of depth at wide receiver. I don't know why he just took tight ends 2 and 3 on his roster when he had Travis Kelce. Though I don't think those were auto picks. I don't see the auto pick button. He took Schultz and Hawkinson. He already has Kelce. Those needed to be wide receivers. But when you take Kelce in round 3 and Lamar Jackson in round 5, you're probably going to be a little weak somewhere, but you're hoping to dominate at quarterback and tight end. Heath went 0 RB. He took no running backs until round 6, and then he took 6 running backs with his next 7 picks.
Nice job, Dave.
He has Lamb, Waddle, and Evans. He has Mahomes and Andrews. And he was pretty happy about that. And then Tony Pollard and Javonte Williams. Starting lineup of Mahomes, Pollard, Javonte, Mark Andrews at tight end, Lamb, Waddle, Evans, and then
we'll see.
Yeah, Brian Thomas.
I'm not committing to anybody for the competition's wide open for flex too.
Brian Thomas, Tajay Spears, Ty Chandler, Ezekiel Elliott, Braylon Allen, and then you took Caleb Williams as a second quarterback.
What's wrong with starting both Titans running backs?
Yeah, would you?
I might. We'll see.
I think you're gonna have to.
Well, I might start Brian Thomas, and just my second flex might just be a weekly lottery ticket.
That's true. You're right.
Okay. Rob went with Breece Hall and Devon Achane. And then he did not take another running back until round 7. And in that process, he grabbed a tight end and a quarterback. So Breece Hall, Devon Achane, Drake London, Jalen Hurts, Dalton Kincaid, and Deontay Johnson. That's his first 6 picks. Ramondre Stevenson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. So that would give him a starting lineup of Hurts and Kincaid, Breece Hall, Achane, London, Deontay Johnson, Ramondre Stevenson, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. Personally, I would have gone McLaurin over Deontay, but they went back to back, so whatever.
I would too, but they're kind of two peas in a pod.
I don't hate this team. I know we don't like Achane in round 2, but he was the last running back taken for like 10 picks. Yeah, I don't know. I think I probably would have gone.
I would have taken White ahead of him.
Yeah.
I would have taken Jacobs ahead of him.
Jacobs, yeah. I would have
And
gone.
I might have taken Ken Walker ahead of him too.
And then Jacobs in round 3, yeah.
Yeah.
Not bad.
No, the rest of the team is pretty good.
Good bench, too. He's got Shakir, Addison, Dobbs, Roshan Johnson, Elijah Mitchell. Good bench receivers, anyway. All right, next team, team 4 is Mark, Bijan Robinson, Chris Olave, Devontae Adams. Look at this. This is a fun build. This is running back, 4 receivers, quarterback. And to get DeAndre Swift as your RB2 in round 7, not bad. Bijan Robinson, Chris Olave, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs. CJ Stroud in round 6, good value. DeAndre Swift in round 7, Jake Ferguson in round 8. I think I kind of love this team. Zach Charbonnet and Khalil Herbert because he has Swift. And then Jacoby Myers and Jerry Jeudy. All right, starting. I love this team. CJ Stroud and Jake Ferguson. Bijan and Swift. And then probably starting 4 wide receivers. Olave, Adams, DJ Moore, Stephon Diggs.
He's 100% starting 4 receivers.
Anybody else love this team?
It's a great team. It's a great build. This is hero RB. And he waited a little bit and got great value at quarterback, got good value at tight end, got some nice depth. This is the way that I probably would prefer to build a team. You start with 1 running back, hammer receivers after that, wait for good value on quarterback. Remember, you're trying to steal him away from the rest of your league. Late round 6 on Stroud is exactly that. Yeah, this is a good team. I'm a big fan of Mark.
So, Adam, I've got a question.
Yeah.
You get a choice. You can have your pick, Jalen Hurts or Patrick Mahomes.
Mm-hmm.
And your pick, Rashee Rice or Zay Flowers. So who are your favorites of those groups?
I'm going to go with Mahomes and Rice in PPR.
Mahomes and Rice or CJ.
No, Mahomes and Flowers.
Mahomes and Flowers or CJ Stroud and DJ Moore.
Stroud and Moore.
Really?
Yeah. I on the breakout show, you and Heath, you auto picked? Oh no, someone else auto picked. On the breakout show, you guys were kind of poo-pooing the Stroud breakout, but I very much see it. I think he's terrific and got a great offensive system, arguably the best wide receivers in football.
Yeah.
I'm in. How about you, Stroud and Moore or Mahomes and Flowers?
I'd say Hurts and Flowers or Mahomes and Rice, any of those, any combination of those I would prefer, because I don't have a big difference between Moore and Rice at all.
Gabe? Sorry.
I get what Heath's saying. I think I'd rather have Hurts and Rice as well, but that's not to say that I don't like Stroud. And I have a hard time making an argument against Stroud. It's why I still have him ahead of Anthony Richardson, and Anthony Richardson has more upside than like anybody. But Stroud, just awesome weapons, good O-line, great scheme, did well last year. The addition of Joe Mixon doesn't scare me much.
I think like the argument against Stroud is the same probably as the argument against London. It's just how much better he has to be if everybody's what we think they are, to justify his being QB5.
Man, I wish I remembered what Alfredo Brown said, but he gave a pretty good reason why he wasn't that high on Rashee Rice. He's got him at wide receiver 37. Now he is, I think,
the low A dot and the addition of talent in Kansas City.
I mean, do you know that, or are you just assuming? Because I think it was something different.
That's what he said.
I get though. I think it was something different, but I think he's also thinking that he's more likely to get suspended than we think he is.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening so soon.
Yeah, but all right, let's go to team 5. Oh, we got to get going here.
Yeah, it's been a long show.
Yeah. All right, I'll read. I'm not going to read every team. I'll read Dave's team. Team 11 is Garrett Wilson, Jonathan Taylor, Brandon Ayuk, Josh Jacobs, Calvin Ridley, David Montgomery, Christian Watson, Jameson Williams, Brock Bowers, Jordan Love. Dave did not take his tight end until round 9 or his quarterback until round 10, and he got 2 guys that he loves. He's Love and Bowers starting. You got Taylor and Jacobs. You've got Garrett Wilson, Brandon Ayuk, and then your 2 flexes are probably David Montgomery and Calvin Ridley, with Christian Watson, Jameson Williams, Marshawn Lloyd, and Tank Bigsby as options, and Curtis Samuel. Man, I think you did great. This is a great team.
I agree. Waited for quarterback until it was a crazy good value. I think I lucked out a little bit with Jordan Love in round 10. But otherwise, maybe the one thing I wish I had done was not been like so balanced early on. Like, I'm great with my first 4 picks. Could I have taken a quarterback where I took Ridley or Montgomery? Yeah, maybe I could have done that. I don't know if I would have felt as good about that value, though, of getting – it would have been Stroud in late round 5 or early round 6 compared to Love in round 10. I think Love's going to have another very good year.
Okay, so again, Dave started with Garrett Wilson, Jonathan Taylor, Brandon Ayuk, and Josh Jacobs. Built a good team there.
I think Dave's team, and I agree with everything he said. It's a very, very balanced. Like, it's going to be a good team. It does illustrate, if you're picking at the back end of the draft and you want to have a tight end that you're sure about, you might have to take one at the 3-4 turn, because there's no guarantee that Kittle or Kincaid are getting back to you at 5-6.
Right. So let's say that was how I felt. I would not have taken Jacobs. I would have taken Trey McBride, and that would have been at 38th overall. I could have prayed to the fantasy gods that Kincaid or Kittle made it back to me, but Heath, your point is valid. You're not getting a good tight end unless you're taking one at 3 or 4. That's
wait a second. That depends on how you feel about Ingram and Pitts, because they will be there in round 6, one of them, if not both.
Yeah, you know how I feel about Pitts, and if we're going to talk up Brian Thomas and say he's going to matter and Christian Kirk's going to matter, then maybe we should be talking about Evan Ingram not being worth that round 6 pick, even in full PPR.
It's quite possible. All right. I want to read one more team here, because this was my favorite start. This is my favorite rounds 1-2 combination. And it was Ja'Marr Chase, Kyren Williams. This is the team who picked 6th overall. Ja'Marr Chase, Kyren Williams. How did this team do? Luca's team. Debo Samuel in round 3. So Chase, Kyren Williams, Debo, Ken Walker. I think he's nailing it so far.
Yeah. Walker's moving up for me.
Don't love Aaron Jones in round 5. Would have gone Pickens there instead. Yeah. You guys like Pickens better than Aaron Jones?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Kyle Pitts in round 6. That was the last of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the top 8 tight ends. Kyler Murray in round 7. I know we like that pick.
Love it.
Cortland Sutton, Keon Coleman, David Njoku. I wouldn't have drafted him if I had Pitts. Tyler Algier, Brandon Cooks, Brock Purdy to back up Kyler, and Kamani Vidal. And no point in drafting Vidal at this point.
Yeah, I think he fell apart starting in round 10, but the first 9 picks were mostly great.
Yeah, it's a good team.
And I'll even say that with Pitts. Like, late round 6, there were 2 other teams that needed a tight end. So if he didn't take Pitts then, I'm pretty sure Pitts would not have made it back to him.
I think we would all say that taking Kittle instead of Aaron Jones in round 5, you're probably going to get Aaron Jones in round 6. But if you don't, you could have taken Najee. And we like Najee more than Aaron Jones and Kittle more than Kyle Pitts.
Right. So Kittle and Najee would have been a better combo than Aaron Jones and Kyle Pitts. Heath, you crushed that one.
The only thing I disagree with there is that I don't think Aaron Jones is there in round 6. You can take Najee for sure,
but Najee would have been, and I would rather have Najee anyway.
Maybe there was not Dave's the only person that took a running back before he picked again.
Fair enough, but based on ADP, Aaron Jones is a 5th round pick. I think pretty much everywhere. I think because I think it's basically Connor and Aaron Jones in round 5 typically. But yeah, this is a great job. Kyler Murray and Kyle Pitts with Kyron Williams, Ken Walker, Jamar Chase, Deebo Samuel, and 2 flexes would be Aaron Jones and Cortland Sutton. All right, that's it for today's show. A long one. I want to thank everybody for watching, and we will talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today with our mailbag.
Good luck in your draft.